Okay, we are calling tonight's Tuesday, January 8th Parks and Rec Commission to order. We have a full quorum of 7 commissioners here tonight, and we did not meet last month in December, but the commission had a working session in November 13th outside of chambers, and those minutes were provided prior to the meeting. So did anyone have any comments, questions, changes that we needed to make to the minutes?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Second that motion.
Second.
The minutes stand accepted?
All those in favor? All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion fails.
Okay, minutes pass. All right. Next order of business is sports and recreation review from 2018. Bill?
All right. Hi, guys. Am I too loud? Good? Okay, I can just stand. All right. Very good. Yeah, so Chris asked me to come in today and just kind of give you guys a quick overview of what 2018 looked like in the sports and recreation world. So I got a little slideshow for you guys to just kind of go over a quick snapshot of some numbers and all that good stuff. So kind of starting out in the spring, one of the first things I do is meet with our youth athletic associations, usually at the end of February. And as you can see, we have a list of athletic associations or high school clubs that use our fields, and they're listed there. Our 3 main players right now, Hastings Football Club, or HFC, Hastings Youth Athletic Association, and the Hastings YMCA, which also represents Raider Nation now. And those are kind of our 3 big users. We also have some other ones that use it, not quite as much. But looking forward to 2019, I think Hastings Lacrosse is on here. They've been very interested in using some more of our space as their group continues to grow every year. So that'll be interesting in 2019 here to kind of divvy that space out as they're going to be competing for space with people like HFC. So it'll be interesting to bring them to the table and see how that works out. But they have certainly expressed interest in using some more field space. As I move over to the right here, 84,000 hours is approximately how much these field users use our fields. That's actually down in 2018. As you guys remember, I think we had a very, very late snowstorm in April. So April was pretty much a wash last year, and I don't think we actually got fields open until the first or second week of May. Right now, it's looking quite warm this year, so hopefully that won't be an issue again. I know once you get to mid-April there, teams are kind of biting to get out there. So it was hard to keep those guys off the fields this year. But yeah, that's kind of the overview of Athletic Association field use for this year. Moving on to our adult softball leagues. We'll actually start all the way over to the right side here. As you can see, from 2015 to 2018, I've kind of provided you guys some numbers here of what our teams look like. This includes our spring, summer, and fall leagues. So this year we had 28 compared to, 68 compared to 69 last year, 71 the year before that, and 76. So you see those numbers come down a little bit. The big player in that is that our women's league has slowly been dwindling. We typically lose 2 or 3 teams every year in our women's league, which is kind of unfortunate. Fortunately, we still have been able to put on a women's league on Wednesday night. In years past, we've always had 2 leagues, a recreational and a competitive women's league. This year, this was the first time that we had to combine into 1 league, and fortunately, that worked out okay. So, I mean, we're holding steady. I think if you look throughout the state of Minnesota, we have a very strong adult softball league still. And we, especially on Tuesday nights, as you'll see there on the left-hand side, we have 16 teams, which is the most we can take on one night with our 4 fields. And actually was a bit disappointing this year. We actually had to turn 2 teams away this year because we just don't have the space to take more than 16 teams. Even if we add in some bye weeks to try and make 18 work, we would be running into the fall season. So fortunately, that league is full. We also have a very strong co-rec league on Monday nights with 10 teams. That league continues to grow in the spring and the summer. So yeah, I mean, overall softball's been pretty strong. The one thing that we'd really like to see is hopefully we can kind of rejuvenate that women's league going forward. Our sand volleyball leagues, as you guys know, that's fairly new still. This would be our 3rd year of doing it, and sand volleyball is growing rather fast for us. Again, starting on the right side, you can see in the first year in 2016, we had 16 team plays. The next year we jumped up to 37, and this year we continue to grow up to 41. I know Chelsea helped us out this year. She had a team out there that played for us in the summer. And it's a very unique feel being inside that skating arena, and players really seem to enjoy it. It's been going really well for us. So it's been a big positive for us. Last year we added fall leagues, and we continued that this year. Unfortunately, the fall got very cold very quick this year, so we did have some difficulties with that. But overall, the adult sand volleyball leagues have been very successful, and that project that we did in 2016 to get that sand in there has seemed to be a success for us so far.
With that set of courts that you have at Pioneer, have you figured out, is there a maximum capacity of teams you can have there?
Right. So on Thursday night, 16 was the max that we could handle. And I believe that's based on our lighting policy. I think they got to be off by 10 o'clock in that neighborhood. So at Vets, we can keep them on till 11 o'clock, so we can go a little bit later. But in town, just keeping the lights on till 10, that kind of limits us to 16. I didn't have to turn anyone away from volleyball this year, so that was a good thing.
So we're not hitting capacity and turning people away yet, which is, like you said, good. But then what's the opportunities to expand elsewhere in town as far as, are we looking at any other extra need yet for more courts?
I don't think at this point, at least I haven't had that conversation with Chris. Maybe Chris could add on to that a little bit. But just looking at this, like Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, there is some open space there. So I think we'll probably look to expand in the different days before we would look to build anything new. Awesome. So our adult soccer leagues, we typically offer 2 leagues, indoor leagues and outdoor leagues. This year, unfortunately, our indoor league was canceled. We just didn't have enough team interest. One of our challenges with the indoor league is it is during kind of prime ice time and turf time. So we actually can't start our games till I think it's 9 o'clock at night. So that puts our games pretty late for adults, especially anyone that's got to get up early and work the next day. So we kind of countered that this year. Instead of offering the league, we offered an open gym, which worked out just fine. We still had, I think, anywhere from 15 to 20 showing up to participate in an open gym, and that was a good thing. And then the outdoor league, we play that out at Vets, kind of at the end of summer into the early fall season. We had 4 co-rec teams play and participate in that. And that's pretty much been the status quo, is 4 teams. We typically have 3 that return every year, and then we randomly get 1 new team that pops in there. We've been trying to grow that to 5 or 6. I think that would be ideal to get up to 6 teams. But for now, we've just kind of been hanging at 4. Rivertown Days. So we do offer, as I'm sure a lot of you know, a kit and ball tournament. That has been dwindling the last, I don't know, about 5 to 6 years. This tournament used to be huge. They used to draw, people have told me 30 plus teams. It's just the popularity of the 16-inch isn't what it used to be. The 16-inch ball is the much bigger softball. It's pretty difficult to get it out of the infield. It's just kind of a different twist on your regular 12-inch softball, which is much smaller. So we are to the point where we're going to look at some alternatives for 2019. We've had the ask to go to 12-inch instead of the 16-inch softball tournament, so we may give that a go. Our challenges there is that there's a very popular softball tournament that takes place. I think it's Fireman's Festival is always the same week as Rivertown Days. I think that's Egan or something like that. And most of our teams, our competitive teams, go play in that tournament, so it kind of pulls away from what we got going on during Rivertown Days. But it could be an opportunity that we bring in some recreational teams to participate in that. We also tried to offer a sand volleyball tournament this year. We only had one team registered, which actually surprised me. I thought that would be very popular. But it was our first year trying it. I think we'll try it again this year and hopefully pull some more teams in. And that way they can go enjoy the festivities downtown while they're not playing.
Is there any opportunity for maybe doing something like, I mean, non-traditional sport during Rivertown Days? I just think of some of those things like a kickball tournament or a dodgeball tournament or something like that, or is there kind of a lane that you've decided to stick in because of past involvement? I mean, I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there as
Right.
a non-traditional route.
That's an excellent idea. I like the kickball. That's kind of come back a little bit in recent years. Like I said, we're pretty open to some alternatives, so kickball absolutely might be an option. I know they used to play that kickball tournament down at, why can't I think of the park, Chris? Wilson Park, and that might be a good opportunity for a kickball tournament because it's close to the festivities. You know, the thing I kind of dislike about having our softball tournament out at Vets is it does feel so far away from what's going on. Maybe trying to get something down at Wilson like a kickball tournament would absolutely be a good idea, so that's something we could look into. Absolutely. Then moving to the Pioneer basketball courts, that was a cool experience for us this year. That kind of took over a whole week of our lives as information came pretty quick to us that we were one of the finalists, and then we had about a week to get things prepared, get people out and voting in the community, and our community really pulled through for us. That was an awesome experience, I think, for everyone involved. Again, Lee Stoffel really helped get that going for us. But yeah, basically at Pioneer Parks, I'm sure you guys all saw it or came down for the presentation, but we received a new surface, new backboards and rims, and the court unveiling was done on August 2nd, where the Minnesota Timberwolves came and kind of did a cool little show for about 2 hours. And I think the kids really enjoyed it that were involved, and it was pretty neat. It was pretty neat. So, and then just moving into some special events, kind of the three big ones that we're involved with: Alternative Spring Break Safety Camp and Community Halloween Party. I'm sure Paige has kind of told you about the Community Halloween Party here recently, but just to review real quick, Alternative Spring Break. That's an opportunity for middle schoolers to do something if they're not traveling for spring break or if they're just in town. It's an opportunity for them to do some service projects during the day, and then also doing something fun like going to Nick Universe or something like that. And that takes place all during the spring break week. Our Promise Fellows help out quite a bit with that over at the middle school, and we had 39 participants in that this year. Safety camp is done. Traditionally at the high school. This year was actually done at the middle school on June 20th. We had 44 participants, and again, another cool collaborative event with Hastings Parks and Rec, Fire, Police, Community Ed, and the YMCA. And then the Community Halloween Party was another success with 1,300 participants and a lot of money and food raised for the food shelter. So yeah, that's kind of a snapshot. I think that was my last one. Yep. Of kind of what went on over the spring, summer, and fall. And now we're just waiting for it to get cold to open up rinks, which I think is going to happen tomorrow finally. So that will be a nice turn of events.
Anybody have anything else? Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, guys.
All right, our next agenda item is our Parks and Rec revenue and pricing policy.
Yes, thank you. As commission is, I feel like it's really loud, well aware, we've been discussing this for quite some time. And as Chelsea alluded to earlier in the meeting, there was a work session. Chelsea, Dave, and Bruce and myself met and did some fine tuning of the policy that you guys have seen in previous editions. So what we have here tonight is what I'm proposing to be, at least at this point, the final edition of the revenue and pricing policy. And again, this is kind of a broad policy on how the Parks and Recreation Department frames their revenue goals and their pricing structure for categories of things. We don't get down into every Snickers is going to cost this much, but we talk about, you know, generalities and have some commonality between our programs like the Aquatic Center and the Civic Arena, those sorts of concessions types of items, and the concessions at Vets. So at any rate, Commission's asked to review and recommend approval and forward that recommendation on to City Council. Obviously, I am open for any questions and discussion on the policy, and modifications can still be made as well. With that, I'll stand for questions.
I think the only thing I want to add on that is that when we went through it line by line, it wasn't a ton of changes from stuff that we've been discussing over the past year. Dave caught one big thing that we're like, why is that in there? And it was an oops, I think, that was not meant to be in there. Other than that, it's pretty much everything we've already gone through hundreds of times, it seems like, to discuss this. And it's based on what the best demonstrated practices you've found, correct? Is it how we came up on this?
Yeah, it's the categories of things that are in this packet are standard Parks and Recreation items, and the cost recovery goals are fairly standard. And I want to remind everybody that these cost recovery goals and the pyramid that's in here, and those are our overall goals. We still build individual program budgets with other things in mind. So what we're talking about in here, you guys all know, is the direct costs for a program, like for instance, Phil's adult soccer program. We're gonna have a program that runs with no less than 150% of cost recovery for that program. That particular program just happens to do far, far better than that. Doesn't mean we're gonna reduce it, but when we're sitting there planning, we're gonna make sure that they're gonna hit 150. That's what we're planning for. And then we take into account other considerations, what the market's doing, those sorts of things. So those are our goals. Hopefully we hit them every time. Hopefully we exceed them every time. Sometimes we have a program like soccer that helps us carry another one. And those are they're very specific circumstances that we will do those. So we do it with eyes wide open. We know what's going on. And our bottom line is, our end goal is not to be losing money on programs.
So I'm guessing at this point, we need a motion to move it to City Council.
The chair could certainly ask for a motion.
Is there a motion to move this pricing policy onto City Council?
I so motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so the motion stand and is seconded to move this out of City Council for review. Is there any further discussion? Discussion? There's no more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? The motion carries and will be forwarded. Yay, check that off our list.
Check it off. Yeah.
Done. All right, our next is the year-end report. Paige, is that you? Or,
Yes, so our department puts out a year-end report each year over the last couple years, which includes our park maintenance, our sports and recreation, our forestry, our programming, aquatics and arena facilities as well. So this year-end report kind of gives you a small overview of important pieces that happened throughout the year, whether it was programs, attendance, numbers, revenues, expenditures. So feel free to review, take the time either tonight or at another point, and feel free to bring us questions or concerns at any point. And Chris, if you have anything to elaborate on, feel free.
Simply, I would say that Paige and our managers do a fantastic job pulling all this information together into something that is digestible. So thank you very much for doing that. This will be a document that's available on our website that residents can go out and find. You guys can go out and find. If you have questions, you can point people to it. It'll also be available for our city council members, electeds, and other city staff as well too. So it'll be a public document, but yeah, in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, just let us know. No sensitive information in there.
No, just a quick question. This is one of the numbers that stood out to me was the season pass decline versus revenue and budget. Do you know what the participant level was this last year that set the budget for an initial 31,000? Do you remember what that number was or not really? Or is that somewhat accessible? I'm just trying to understand if you have 235 passes and you budgeted for 31, what are you talking, 70 season pass fall off, which seems pretty significant. But then the swimming lessons are up significantly as well. So I don't know why to me, in my mind, it seemed like those things would even each other out a little bit more, but.
Sure. I'll take that one, Tim. The budgeted dollar amount, basically on our revenues, we're gonna take a 5-year look.
Yep.
And be somewhere in that range. And you can see, sometimes we just have no idea. The aquatic center especially is very weather dependent. I'd have to look back at some of the other numbers, and we've got the 7-year look, I think, on it right now, where we could take a look at all of those things, but.
Okay, just trying to understand the difference in that, cause, yeah, and if it's a 5-year, but I get the discrepancy if it's set that far ahead of time. I'm just trying to make sense of that.
Sure.
But swimming lesson piece is great. Kudos to your guys' teams. My kids did the swimming lessons this year, and my wife just raved every time they come back, and our boys loved it. So there's a good staff there for sure doing that.
Appreciate the plug for the swim lessons.
Seriously.
Yeah.
the last thing on our agenda is any updates from Chris with Parks and Rec?
Thank you very much. Yeah, quickly on your list here, the land dedication ordinance and the methodology that this commission has discussed and made recommendation on, that is still at our city attorney. He's still taking a look at that. I discussed it a little bit with him last night. He's been doing extra research and digging around a little bit too. So we're still on track with that. It's never intended for that to be an overnight type of deal. So we want to go through all that with eyes wide open, but just want to let you guys know that it's still in the works, getting that reviewed. Glendale Park or Glendale Neighborhood Park project that this commission has discussed. Again, we all know kind of what the timeline is on that. We started having this discussion in October of 2017, and this commission has done quite a bit of work and ultimately made a recommendation for a particular site selection to go to Park and Rec Committee of Council. Just so happened that the timing of all of that ran into holiday seasons, ran into vacations, ran into illnesses, ran into an election, and now has run into changing committee structure as well. So instead of trying to force a meeting on the current committee members that are in there, ultimately just planning to kind of let that play out. I think the new committees will be official after January 22nd, and then we'll go into that. And this conversation may take more than just one committee. It may take full council. It may take a workshop. And I did just send out an update to full council earlier today with the same, just kind of going through a chronological story of what's been going on with that and where we're at now. So this commission's recommendation is in queue to be shared with the Park and Rec Committee of Council still. So it hasn't gone away. And then geocaching. Okay.
Yeah, so as you remember from a past workshop and meeting, Bruce recommended and also presented the idea of geocaching. Coincidentally, a month after, the Pleasant Hill librarian approached Bruce and I, and we had a meeting with the librarian, and they're interested in a partnership program to develop some form of geocaching in this spring coming up. So we are in the works with that. So if any commissioners are interested, that conversation is currently happening. So feel free to join or send us an email with any questions.
Sweet. And other than that, as Phil alluded to, the outdoor skating rinks have been a significant challenge for us this year. This latest weather is not doing us any favors, particularly with the leaves that are blowing around right now and freezing into the ice. That's hopefully it doesn't create too many problems down the road. Those leaves just create a hot spot in that ice, and that ice will melt and you'll wind up with a hole there. So we'll try and get the leaves off the best that we can, but we didn't have scuba gear to go out there and get them all. That's about where we're at right now. A lot of new stuff going on with the city, so excited about all that. Yeah, and I can, if there's any questions of us or the department. Other big great news, Paige is now with us full time. Ooh. Yes. Fantastic.
Definitely thought you were. You're working full time. And I also want to share, there's a new point of contact list that was provided to you tonight, and then I'll also send out an electronic version to you guys as well, with some new committee of council members.
As our committee.
For what it's worth, at a future council meeting, and I know I'm gonna sound like I'm beating a dead horse a little bit, but I would love to kind of restart the conversation a little bit about possible, I'm not talking on a grandiose scale, but some sort of indoor park play place or play space here in town. So I'd like to put it on the agenda for next month, and I'll come with some possible ideas and maybe even some general budget numbers and what that could look like, just to kind of prime it a little bit, because I do think that it's worth a conversation to have here in town with space, office space and open retail space and whatnot, so.
It's a good conversation to have again. Sure. I definitely agree. Anything else anyone wants to talk about? Okay. Yeah, is there a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
I don't know.
First. Somebody else? Anybody?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, tonight's meeting is adjourned, and then we are scheduled to meet next month on Tuesday, February 12th, same time, same place.